Hello and welcome to this fantastic episode. I'm very excited. But today I'll be talking with Trevor Hendy. And in Australia, he's an absolute sporting icon, but also a great mentor for men and has a lot of other things that we'll be discussing today, which I think is just wonderful for this country to have such a iconic person as a leader in health. And if you don't know, six-time Ironman world champion, you won Uncle Toby's, I think, 4 times. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and that's kind of our premier event on the beach in Australia. So he's an absolute superstar, and I'm very grateful to have you here today. So thanks, Trev, for making the effort to chat with us.
And you forgot to say that bit that I'm your brother from another mother and
Oh, yeah.
you're my sister from another mister. We've
Yeah.
always had such a great connection and we just, think a lot the same and often complete each other's sentences in the sense that we're both pursuing the same things. And what I love, talk about yin yang, that you've pivoted a little and you're working more with men. And I've actually been pivoting a fair bit and working more with women, you know, and I
Ah.
think it's really beautiful that a woman can make a man feel very safe and vice versa, to actually, rather than a man just talking to a man about what needs to happen. And it's the same with a man talking about, talking to a woman. So Kane Johnson, myself and Mark Kluwer, Tiger Kluwer, we've been running women's breath retreats. And it's amazing, 3 men running this retreat. We bring my wife Jo in as well, so they can have a couple of secret girls business sessions. Um, but it's just a beautiful thing. I think a really well functioning world is where the men and women are really working together to make a difference.
I like that, and I like the I agree with you, and I wasn't too sure how men would be with a female talking about their sex hormones because it's a bit challenging, And I talk
Yeah,
about men's testosterone levels, and for a guy, that's well, for one, just even mentioning it to anybody is can be confronting. But to create a safe space where
yeah,
it's, hey, we need to have these conversations, and I love what you're doing with women as well because often as ladies, I think we feel safer with the masculine energy holding a
yeah.
space for us.
Yeah, when it's pure, like the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, when we're coming from the right place, we're actually built to be the opposing supporting force that builds the whole. So I think it's a really, really special thing. And in the past, obviously, men and women, both probably used each other. And there was that, oh, we hope for the fairy tale, but in the end, oh God, I didn't quite get it. And it becomes disappointing and betrayed and all that sort of stuff. And we're looking for our stimulation through the opposite sex rather than actually supporting the opposite sex to be that powerful, most incredible version of themselves. Because let's face it, the sacred feminine is such a powerful force. It's so, by the way, it sees everything. And that's why men were so scared of it, because women feel. So because they feel, they see straight through bullshit.
Mm.
So that's been one of the reasons why it's never quite come together. And I don't want to beat up on the church. I'm not religious, but I'm pretty sure the Catholic Church kept the women out for a long time because the women would go, hang on a second. And hence why they probably burnt the witches at the stake, because they were the seers. They saw, they had the natural based medicines. They worked on cycles and they worked on connection, not some story about some this and that in the past and, good, bad, right and wrong. The women had the capacity to get out past the mind, and
Mm.
because they sat in the feeling.
Mm.
And their vision was always, women were always circular. So they've always been at the deepest core about putting their arms around, about hugging, about holding. And men were always about cutting through, conquering. So the evolution of the planet was always going to come through the women being empowered, because we have to go to the circular and we have to get out of the power of the male, which when it's not the sacred male, it's probably the wretched male, where it's like we have to win and succeed. And that the whole that I don't like the term because it's weaponized as well, but toxic masculinity, blah blah blah. That's actually killing our men as well, because
Mm.
our men are very, very powerful and they do care, and they want to make a difference. In fact, they've turned themselves inside out, and a lot of them have worked themselves to the bone to
Mm.
support their partner, their family, whatever else. But they're sort of barking up the wrong tree sometimes, thinking that the happiness is going to come in the future.
Mm.
But there's so much power untapped in the male and the female. So funny place to start today, but I think that's probably what we're exploring.
I think it is exactly what we're exploring, how what we're going to dive deeper into impacts on relationships and day
Mm.
to day, and particularly where we are in the world right now energetically, which might scare a few people away when they listen, but when they hear, if they stay through the end, they'll see exactly what we're identifying here, and that is that masculine energy, which is historically from a hormone perspective, testosterone,
Mm.
but the saboteurs of cortisol and other hormones and how they can actually shut down parts of the male brain so he goes into a default warrior mode,
Mm.
whereas the new way doesn't need to be that way. And
Yep.
I'm sure, I'm really looking forward to your insights because this is definitely your lane. Um, um, do you mind taking us back to when you're a young lad and just some of the, I know we've talked about your parents in the past and just the male influences, how you found school and just, coming up through the ranks as a kid.
Yeah, Sammy, I think I it's funny because it does give context to because how I see even this discussion and I can't not see anymore that everything's related to evolution, true evolution, evolution of our consciousness, expansion of our awareness. That we're waking up. That how we did it last year technologically is not how we're doing it this year, but how we did it last year emotionally, if we keep shifting, shouldn't be how we do it this year. And physically, mentally, pattern-wise, behavior-wise, we should be growing and expanding, becoming wiser and everything else. So life is about moving forward.
Mm.
And in moving forward, we occasionally get our comfortable hidey holes, even if we don't recognize them. And when we have to move forward, we have to actually quite often let go of something. So I'll give you a little bit of background for people listening about my background because it relates to what I had to let go of to be a man, an evolved man, a conscious man, a mature man, like a responsible man. But it goes back to my mum and dad. My dad working on a building site that he loved, foreman, great construction company. He actually built stuff at Melbourne Airport, like Tullamarine. He's built so many things here on the Gold Coast that I drive past buildings and go, oh, my dad built that one, he was the foreman on that site. But back in Melbourne, I was born in Melbourne, he had the picket fence, the beautiful house that he built, his wife, his two kids, me and my 5-year-old sister. He had a pet rabbit and pet dog, and he had everything he was supposed to have.
Mm.
And he had this sense that everybody was talking about going on holidays. This is 1971. And they're talking about going overseas. Qantas is flying overseas and going overseas. And he was getting called to country without realizing it because he was like, oh, why would people go overseas without seeing their own country first? And, so he had this thought of, I'm not sure, why have I got everything but still don't feel, whole or satisfied? And also, why would I go looking for it out there why don't I explore my own country? So he basically convinced my mum that we should sell everything up, put it in storage, buy a caravan and drive around Australia for this long. And for those who are listening, not watching, I'm holding my fingers apart because it was an indeterminate.
Long as a fish.
Long as a fish. Yeah. And we ended up 2.25 years driving around Australia. But
how many years, sorry?
2.25, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Significant holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what was interesting about it was if I look at so I was 3 years of age to 5 years of age by the time we settled on the Gold Coast. But if I look at it, what was I learning from my father and my mother while I was 3 to 5? And they say from conception to 7 years of age is where most of your patterns are built, deep in your psyche,
Mm-hmm.
And so what was I learning in the middle of that block hole, 2 to 5, 3 to 5? Well, my father had courage to think outside the box.
Yeah.
He didn't accept the society's rules as being exactly the way it should be. Mm. He was brave enough to think, well, I'm not so sure, so to explore his own thoughts. He was also adventurous enough to think and had open-minded enough to see there's something else out there, so he could expand his vision. My mum was unconditional enough to say, wow, you're the one that made me feel comfortable from a disrupted family life. We finally feel comfortable and you want to uproot us, And she was like, no, well, you provided some comfort and security in the first place, so I'm going to trust you, So she went with it. So she had the sense of adventure as well. My sister was 5 years older and just an unconditional, beautiful soul. My best mate, soulmate, amazing. Never had a fight in our life. Yeah, an incredible life together. And Diane. And so we drive off down the road and we get 3 hours down the road and we stayed there for either 6 weeks or 3 months,
Right.
So Dad also saw that just go where your intuition said. He got some work there. So he just went where he could be of service and where work and exchange and service. So these are amazing values to be surrounded, be swimming in that pool of energies and emotions of my father just going, yeah, oh, the work's running out. The weather's changing. Why don't we head further north? And, why don't we go here? So he was flexible. We followed the seasons. So we went right around Australia in this amazing way of living, which
And
was, yeah.
sorry, was he like in that? Was there? It wasn't tumultuous. There wasn't fighting. It was just, you feel like it was a very safe environment for you growing up.
So safe. So
Fantastic.
so loving. It was almost like that was his move to get out of Victoria before he got antsy to go, oh, do. And he said to my mum, I'm just not sure the kids are meant to grow up here where we, and just do the same as what we've done. So how exciting to have a father that did that, Yeah. And I hope some people are listening go, oh my God, for your own kids or whatever, because it wasn't what he was saying. It was what he was doing was the greatest demonstration. It was how he was living.
Yeah.
But he would, we'd be living out of the caravan. We'd go to work. I remember them telling me a story. I kind of vaguely remember bits and pieces of it, but we pulled up at a town and my dad parked the van up, chocked it up, balanced it, everything. Nice little town. All right, love, I'm going to go in and see what works around. Just, she starts cooking. He drives off, middle of the day, doesn't come home till like 6 o'clock, comes back in and mum's just, all good, comes in and he's like, yeah, I got a job down at so-and-so. I started straight away. I've got 3 weeks of work helping him with this to finish off this project, blah, blah. And, so he'd just pull into town, set up the caravan and go work and, getting his first paycheck or whatever. So we took the money we had, but he worked his way around, the country. And when we stopped in places longer, mum would say, oh, I'll do some cleaning at the caravan park or, So I was going to tell the story shorter, but the length of it really sort of denotes how powerful a base it was to learn from. And we just went where we're supposed to be. So home was where the heart was, not the address that the mail was sent to. Home was all about, my father would come home from that day's work and he'd go, all right, let's go for a walk. He wasn't a drinker. He never drank beer. He drank a bit of stout, a bit of red wine later in his life, but he never drank beer. He's like, nah. He always saw beer as a comfortable habit forming thing, that he just saw people drinking beer as the ones that weren't really looking after their wives or family or, whatever. They were off doing that. So he just not going down that path. And I'm not sure where that came from, but so he just gave us so much time and his energy and everything. But anyway, two major stories from that defined my life, other than all of those values, was he used to pull up on the side of the road, like say in the middle of the Northern Territory, 1971, 72. So there's not much around, and he'd drive off the side of the road to a dirt spot where it was sort of safe over in the trees, and he'd pull the caravan up, and then mum would start cooking some chicken or rabbit or fish or, whatever. And we'd literally, my dad would take us for a walk, and he'd walk us off through the bush to explore the area. And he'd change direction all these different times. And then he'd get 40 minutes away from the caravan. He'd say, all right, Trev, show me the way home, and, and I often joke and say, then he'd run off, then he'd run off, but he didn't. He'd show me the way home. And I learned very early as a 4-year-old that when I left home, to keep an eye to know where home was. So don't get distracted by the left turn, the right turn, just like know where it was. And so very quickly I could show us the way home. What was crazy about that was later in life, which we'll touch on, I had so many experiences where I lost my way. I became well known, had the celebrity card being played all the time, and free drinks and a lot of attention, and the deeper values inside of me that my mother and father had in me, I was straying from. I was starting to enjoy the party and the good times, and what was funny about that was when I finally recognized, oh my God, I've lost my way. I'm in an ego here. This is not who I really am. Feels good. Getting a lot of rewards for it. I'm getting it propped up, but and highly approved of. But oh shit, I'm actually out with myself. But what was crazy, I could always find my way back because I knew where home was. So I often go to that story and go, it's so crazy that simple pattern was in me that, go and explore things and go off and explore the landscape and even get yourself in a bit of trouble, but just bloody remember where home is, and even for core values. So that's one thing. But the other one was I learned to swim in the Daly River.
Oh
in the
yeah.
Northern Territory, which is
Crocodiles are.
where you go to see crocodiles. You know, back then they'd
Wow.
been hunted for a long time and they were scared of us or whatever else. And we used to run up and down this sand dune for hours and all sit on it and sunbake, and then we'd jump back in the water, float down the Daly River back to the crossing, and then walk up and camp right at the crossing.
Mm.
Anyway, when we finally left there, the last time we left, we got a postcard sent to us I think we're over in Broome or something, and a postcard sent saying, you won't believe it, just after we left, they caught like a 14-foot crocodile sitting on that dune
Yeah.
waiting for us to
Looking for
come
the
back.
handy kids.
Yeah, you know, and because we camp with all the other families, the Fishers and the Frenches and everything from Darwin, our friends that we had up there, and what was crazy about it was I always remember thinking that's where I learned how to swim. That's where I
Mm.
learned how to be comfortable in moving water, you know,
Mm.
flowing down a river. But also, I wondered deep down if, you know, I never liked being at the back of the pack in an Ironman race, in a swim race. I wasn't the most natural talented swimmer from the start. I wasn't a pool swimmer, but I was never at the back of the pack. You know, I was like, no, don't let me at the back of the pack, because I think deep down I thought I might get taken by a crocodile. But we
Funny, isn't
settled.
it? These things we have that, if you're on the outer or the back, that's where the nasty things are going to grab you, but often it's in the middle lane.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't
So,
discriminate.
well, I got more trouble at the front of the pack later in life, but ultimately settled on the Gold Coast. Joined the Nippers when I was 8. Settled on the Gold Coast when I was 5. Surfers Paradise Primary.
Mm.
Cried my first day of Nippers. Was scared of competition, scared of people. I was used to my family's company, you
Mm.
know, and I got into it, enjoyed the process of the beach flags and some other things, and I slowly but surely fell in love with going in the water, and, you know, like people taking me to the water and feeling like I could get in and out and be safe, because I was really scared of the ocean. Um, but there was this inner strength growing in me from going in the water, and
Mm.
then put that up against primary school. And I remember in year 2, so similar age, year 3, I was walking through the year 4 area to get back to the year 3 area after morning tea. And I had a drink out of the year 4 bubbler, and this kid grabbed my head and shoved it into the bubbler, like hit my tooth, kind of, you know, cut my face. And I like looked up and he said, "You're a year 3, get out of the year 4 area," you know. And it was like a really random thing to experience, you know, like I experienced straight away, like, you can't trust anybody. You got to keep your eyes in it. You got to stay on a high alert. Older kids are out to get you. You got to, you know, like, it was kind of, mostly it was like a broken heart that someone I don't even know wants to
Hurt you.
mess my face up, you know, wants to hurt
Yeah.
me. And so it created a sense of, at a very young age, a sense of be wary. You
Right.
can't trust anything. I also had an experience where I we're doing a test and we're getting near the end of the test. And I was in year 3, same time. Isn't that crazy? And I was just like vaguing out, and I was just looking over towards my mate, and he was scribbling on his test. Wasn't looking at it, trying to read it, copy it, or anything. You know, you're just vague and
Yeah.
stick here
Yeah.
in class looking. And the teacher came over and went, "What are you doing? You're cheating." Blah blah blah. You know, no, no, I'm not. Go to the office and tell the principal that you've been cheating, and he'll tell you what your punishment is. And I'm like, what? And I wasn't. And I
Mm.
went to the office, and I looked around the office. I was so scared to go in, mostly because when my parents find out I've been to the office, I'm going to be in so much trouble. And I
Mm.
looked around, and there was a chair at the front. So I sat on the chair for 5 minutes and then went back, you know, and thought, I'll just tell her I went. So I went in and, you know, lied to avoid something that I was scared of.
Mm.
And I went, and what did he say? He said, I shouldn't do that and don't do it again. You didn't go and see him. So she
Ah,
rings in. No, I didn't see him. I had to go back down and come and write it all out. But I had to stand in front of the class and apologize to all of them for lying. You know, I had to apologize
mm.
to my class. Like, they didn't care, you know. And
Right.
so it was this shaming thing. And then
Yeah.
the final thing was I was sitting same age. And I'm just realizing this now. These 3 things happen in year 3. 3 year 3 things, 3 by 3. And I remember sitting there, and this will all relate later. It'll help what we're going to talk about. But
Mm.
I remember sitting there, and we used to have lunch, and you had to sit dead still. And it's
Oh.
windy, and we're underneath the building, and I hear this shh, and I look down, and someone's alfoil has blown from. They've dropped their rubbish, and it's blown over at my feet.
Mm.
And I look down at it, and then I look back up, and this teacher's standing right in front of me. She goes, whack with the cane. She goes, pick up your rubbish. And so I had this 8-year-old self that
Mm.
goes and joins the surf club that's getting all these things at school where, I think on that day, can't trust teachers, can't trust authority. People
Mm.
don't even believe you. People will actually accuse you of things you didn't do. And that goes back to the cheating, which I
Mm.
didn't cheat, but then I lied. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's this weird self-fulfilling prophecy. And so I grew up as a young guy, very wary.
Mm.
Then I went through bullying and belittling at the surf club, and the guys older than you, and they'd chase you and flush you to initiate you, or they'd, you
And
know,
unfortunately, that was a very much the 80s kind of thing, wasn't it?
you weren't a man unless that happened to you.
It's
You
like
weren't
the
allowed to be part
baptism.
of the club. Yeah, that was
Bizarre,
football.
isn't it, looking back on
Yeah,
it? My schooling was not dissimilar to yours. And
yeah,
I remember being sent off to get the cane. And I'm
yeah.
just a wee little girl, like,
Mm.
imagine doing such a bad crime when you're 7 or 8 years old that you warrant physical abuse with a stick that hurts. Like,
Corporal punishment. Oh,
awful. No wonder people come a little bit scarred and unstuck as kids.
and no wonder we end up in a deeply hidden state of fu. you
Mm.
know, because deep down inside, it's like my reaction was, who are you? Like, F you, like, what, why, what? Like, not trusting the world, not trusting this thing that's supposed to be life. And, I learned from school and all that sort of stuff. So I kind of hated it, like so I loved the surf club because I get away. But then next minute, as I get 14, 15, I'm getting chased and initiated at the club. And it's like, okay, once you've done that, you're one of them and you fit in. So at least it's like a bikie gang. Um,
Yeah.
at least you fit in now. And so I was fitting in, but I had to, that wall that I already had there turned into a bitterness. And it
Right.
turned into, I'm not good enough to get the girl because I had the girlfriend and the Australian champion took her, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
there's all these stories to it, but this is all like a young, fertile mind.
Mm.
um, and then as I'm growing into my body and going through puberty and I'm getting testosterone and I'm growing and all of a sudden I'm on my way to 6'4", 92 kilos, 6% body fat, strong. I've been paddling and swimming. So I'm wide, broad. I'm becoming the vision of what a strong man looks like. And I'm getting full of power from this thing. But this power was also infused with a bit of hatred, a bit of F you all, no one understands me, no one gets me. So the little kid, the beautiful little kid that traveled the country, the
Yeah.
values were still there, but
Mm.
they were stuck behind a wall of, I'm going to have to take what I want to get. Like no one's going to give it to you. In fact, people are taking it from me. You're no longer taking it. I'm getting it. So when I decided to be the Australian Ironman champ, it's
Mm.
because Dwayne Ties was, and Dwayne was my hero, and he seemed to, he was funny, and I liked him, and he'd write me a postcard from around the world. He was world champion, and I wanted to be like him. And so he was my safe version of the elder, but I
Mm.
wanted to be Australian board paddling champion because I wanted to beat that guy that was older than me, and I wanted to beat that other guy that was, bullying me, blah blah blah. So there's this real mixed bag of who I wanted to be like and who I wanted to be better than, and how I wanted to get power back. So we're going to
Yes.
talk about testosterone and
Yes.
fight or flight. But I'd arrived in a state of basically, Sam, F you.
Mm.
But I'm Bevan Ron's little boy, and I'm smiling and I'm gentle because I'm still me, you know.
Yes.
But it's filtered, it's flowing through deep down a bitterness and anger and upset. And that was infused through my system, and it gave me a sense of power. Like I could get a sense of, I could get angry, and
Mm.
the testosterone would kick in and the fight or flight, and I could run past someone or do something. But yet, why do I love training? Because I love the ocean, I love my mates. And so this real mixed bag of the yin and the yang, of the I suppose the true spirit and
Yes.
the ego, and that was how it all started.
Do you think though, because I'm hoping that rugby players will listen to this and
Yeah.
upcoming sports people and just people in general will listen to this, and particularly people our age will reflect back on their, 30 years ago,
Mm.
what was going through their body and mind. Do you think, and I know, look, I watch a lot of sport and have done over the years, and sometimes that, excuse the French, but the bastard in the guy can make him, that bitter, that upset, I've got something
Killer.
to prove, becomes their superpower in a way because they don't give up. How do
Yep.
you think it would have gone if you didn't have that as motivation? Would have you
I've
been
got
as
I've
successful,
got
do you think?
I've got the beautiful circular view of it now,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so people go, "Are you saying that you would have got there without it?" I'm like, no, 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 no. Like
Mm,
it was exactly what I was meant to experience. So what I've worked out about myself is, and this is what I said about I can't not see this about the evolution of ourselves, humans, of people. In my evolution, I was meant to learn about power from many different angles.
mm,
What's authentic power? What's inauthentic power? What do you use power for? If you have influence, is it to get more of what you want with a smile on your face so you look like you're giving to others? Is it just pure selfish, just for yourself? Or is it, oh, you're just learning, experiencing, and ultimately, is there a place where you can be giving and of service and give authentic power and use whatever your wisdom is to give it? And so I've learned all these different things through the process. But
mm.
what I know is that experience is irreplaceable. To beat someone from pure anger and to go, F you, you're not beating me today, is an amazing experience to have because you finish going, like, you feel bulletproof and $1,000,000.
Mm.
But at the same time, you go home and you're a bit of an asshole and you're like, think you're right about everything. And then, Jackie, my first wife, she would say, oh, no, she'd be into me about something. And I just was, the more I became the guy, the more she'd have to yell at me to go, you're not that guy, you dickhead, but she
She tried
couldn't
to
say
keep you a bit more grounded,
yeah,
maybe.
she couldn't find the words, So we're young, we're married at 18, 19,
Mm.
and so we went through this very young, but we didn't have the maturity to deal with what these energies were exposed to. But the influences on the front page of the paper together and blah blah. But she'd be saying that, and I'd be thinking, how can I be wrong? I won. Look at my
Yeah,
trophy cabinet. It's clear that you're wrong. You're reactive. I'm calm. And so the other person was always, and multiple people around me, the other person was always angry, and I'm always the non-angry person. I'm the calm one that wins the day. But down deep, I was so damn angry,
mm.
And I remember one time, Guy Leach and I were racing at Manly. I think it might have been a twilight race. I'm not sure, but I think it might have been a twilight race. And we're racing, and we're in the last run leg against Leach versus Hendy.
Mm.
It's the whole race has
It was
come down.
like that for years, wasn't it?
Oh, it was amazing. We're best mates. We love each other so much. We'd do anything for each other these days. And
Nice.
we have beautiful chats, and we're like, oh, hey mate. And it's
Mm.
funny, we almost got each other more than anybody else after the. So it was like he's my biggest foe, but one of my five mates,
Mm.
Rido, Dwayne Tides, Grant Kenny, Leachy, and myself, and
Mm.
we all won all the different titles, and we were inseparable and partners in crime and partners in fun, and we sort of rooted the Uncle Toby series, and we were big spirits and big personalities, but funnily enough, Leachy would almost be the one that we're an opposite to each other. He
Mm.
was the devil child that would beat up his ski or yell at his handler, and I'd be the one that would handle it really well. But deep down, he was showing what I had underneath,
Yeah, it
and
was just
I
the
was looking for
exterior version
like
of
the
you.
shiny one. But we're running in this last run leg one time, and we had I planned with about 100 to go to the finish line, 150, 100 to go. I'd go around him. I'm in his footprints, and he could and I was the faster guy. He was the longer guy,
Mhm.
and I'd go around him, put the sprint in, and I'd get him when he couldn't go with me. And I'm sitting there, and he's trying to stretch me so I couldn't go. Anyway, I'm playing, and we're about 250 out, and this guy reaches over. This guy reaches over at the fence because we're running close to the fence, and he reaches over and he goes, "Come on, Leachy," and he's a Manly local.
Oh,
"Come on, Leachy. You've got a bigger ticker than he has," And Leachy and I talk about it. Leachy immediately goes, "Oh, don't say that!
don't
Don't
feel
say that to him.
anything.
Don't say that to him." And I immediately go, "Right, right, does he?" And so I'm 250 out. I throw my plan out the roof and I go straight away. That's it. I'm going now. And I take off, and I break him, but then I'm starting to die because I have my little sprint in me. And he starts coming back at me, and I just speed him across the line, And he's like, "Oh, how's that?" So and so, it was his mate. He's like, "Asshole, I wish he just shut his mouth." you know. So it's funny that killer instinct inside him and I both shared that, and it's what made us great mates in the end. Best buddies. But what was funny is I went to Keith Maitland, and Keith, my
Yeah.
chiropractor buddy,
Yes. Lovely.
and I met him for the first time in 1993, and I had tendonitis, and this is going to help the rest of our little talk here.
Yeah.
I had tendonitis. I had a weird sort of collapsed arch in my foot. I had hip displacement, like really weird.
So how long were you just because I sincerely hope that young men who are athletes listen to this, because what you go through, it doesn't matter what sport it is. This
Yep.
translates to all young guys who enter sport and have success. How
Yep.
do you handle the fame, the fortune, everything that rolls with it, and stay true to your values and self and the sport? So just how many hours were you training at this point per day? Because
Yeah.
you're
Well,
become professional.
I'll fill in those bits. So I was probably we used to train 4.5, hours a day,
Right.
4 to 5 hours a day, but they were intense training. It wasn't like
Mm.
drills. I do a lot of work in footy now, and there's a lot of drills and there's a lot of different things, which is awesome. They train really hard actually.
Yeah.
But we do that every day. Like 6.5 days a week.
It's a
Occasionally,
lot. It's
yeah,
an incredible amount on the body.
yeah, and so the body's working really hard. But going
Yes.
back to what I was talking about, I was doing a lot of that from FU. I
Right.
want to be the winner. I want to get the girl. I want to be the one. I want to have all the, because I figured if I win, I'll get the girl, I'll get the laughs, I'll
Yeah.
get to call the shots.
Yeah.
Then, you learn, you get the sponsors, you get the attention, you get the recognition, you get the respect, the
Mm.
doors open for you, you get the VIP passes, so it grows into this, like the winner gets the power.
Yes.
The winner's literally the guy, doors open for him wherever he goes. And so it become, I got this power, and a great teacher of mine spoke about there's two triangles in life. One is understanding, love, and acknowledgement. If you lead through life wanting to understand,
Yeah.
love will always come in when you understand. I can see who you are, and you get acknowledgement of what's really going on. It'll build relationships, build connection, collaboration, rapport. It's a beautiful gateway for life. It's a triangle of understanding, love, and acknowledgement will expand out. And
Mm.
so the only other triangle is when you don't feel you're getting that, you'll try and get it another way. You're trying to work out how to get power. So I
Right.
got power from winning.
Uh-huh.
And when I got it, I wanted more of it, which is greed. And then I went, well, what do I have to do? I just have to smash everybody and beat everybody up and which is control. So he basically said it's power, greed, and control. So what's funny about that? If you look at it from a concept, just a concept of power, greed, and control,
Yeah.
what it does is, as you know, our whole body reacts to wherever we're coming from. Wherever the mind goes, the body will follow.
Mm.
So if I'm in FU, I'm firing in the amygdala.
Mm.
I'm in the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight.
Mm.
I've got to win. It's all past or future, good or bad, right or wrong, win or lose, success or failure,
Mm.
hot or cold, but it's fat or skinny, dumb or smart, slow or fast. It's good enough, not good enough. It's acceptable, unacceptable. It's a brutal world of you're not enough the way you are. You've got to gather and get all these things outside of yourself. So what I've just talked about is having an FU because I want to be loved and liked, but I'm not feeling it. So I go into this place where I become this persona that can get these things.
Mm.
And you get the respect and you get all that sort of stuff, and you're a warrior, and you talked about going into the warrior, and you're brutal. I got into the Hall of Fame from these things, and I worked with Nathan Buckley for a while at Collingwood Footy Club, and we loved it. It was beautiful to work together about 3 seasons, and they brought out the top 50th toughest sportsmen of all time.
Right.
And Bucks and I were like, I don't know what numbers we were, 11 and 12 or 21 and 22 or 7 and 8 or something on the all-time.
Right, you're on the list.
We're on the list together, but at the same time that had come out, we're actually working on love and connection and opening up and being the guardian, not the
Softening the
warrior.
masculine.
Shifting from the warrior to the guardian so you can actually care for others and actually build bridges and build connection. But anyway, so I used to race from this place, and I'd go into this energy.
Mm.
And that would be where I'd race from. It would take me over, producing cortisol and adrenaline, up for the fight, and the power would come in, and then you'd win. And then, of course, I've won now. I can shift into the prefrontal cortex, into the parasympathetic, which is rest and recovery, rest and repair, rest and digest, rest and restore, all those names. And now oxytocin and serotonin. And what's oxytocin? That's what's in mother's milk.
Yeah.
It literally makes us feel safe and secure.
Yeah.
So I had to have the trophy under my arm before I could feel like I'd had the big breastfeed.
Right.
It was like, oh, I got the trophy under my arm. Then even chasing the girls and losing my ways because I've got to get the girl.
Yeah.
I was losing myself in this process that I didn't even know was happening inside of me, which was I need to be the guy. And I was stuck in that cycle.
Do you think, looking back on it, like psychologically, there's all those rewards and those external rewards, but do you think intrinsically, because when we win, we get it as a guy,
Yeah.
when you guys
Yeah.
win,
Yeah.
testosterone goes through the roof,
Yeah.
and
You get a
that's
bump.
almost, it's an elixir. So
Yeah.
do you think that it was potentially as well just this chase for that feeling? I mean, I know all the accolades that went with it, but it is addictive.
Oh,
Having
it's 100%
testosterone.
addictive, and it's
Yeah.
power. It
Mm,
feels like powerful. So
very
I'm no longer small, and I'm not worried about anything because I'm the guy.
invincible.
So this is where the ego goes, yeah. And the ego is, I love Eckhart Tolle's work where he said, the ego is not a dirty word. Like that's Sheryl Strawn from
Yeah,
Skyhook.
Skyhooks.
And we were out together the night I met Joe, funnily enough, Sheryl and I.
All right.
But
Oh.
ego is not a dirty word.
Mm,
It's simply ego equals unconscious. So
mm,
the unconscious aspects of ourselves. So inside my consciousness, I was trying to win, get ahead, because all of my life was tied to that.
mm.
So I had an unconscious self was being built out of the idea that if I win, I get all the goodies. But Sam, the innocence in it is that if I lose it all. I
Yeah,
don't get the girl. I don't get the love. I'm a nothing and a nobody.
yeah.
And so no wonder I was fighting. No wonder
Mm.
the title I was fiercely defending. I was on the Australian Ironman dais, 1, 2, or 3 for 11 years in a row.
Wow.
In all of the different racing circumstances and waves and flat and different orders and 11 years in a row
Yeah.
not because I'm some super freak sports person, because I had the body and the talent and all those sort of things, and even the spirit to deal with the ocean and the mind. I had all the positives, which we haven't touched on. But inside, I was like, you ain't getting this title off me because this title gives me everything. It was like defending, like Donald Trump defending America. It's like I
Yeah.
was like, get away, don't
So
touch my.
it didn't ebb away. It was there
Yeah.
uh, for years. What?
But what would happen, Sam, you can't keep it up. So
Mm,
to deal with the stress and the anxiety and the pressure and the burst in testosterone, I had to go chase the burst. So, to get the balance, I was chasing the feminine and the
mm,
love,
mm,
almost like because I needed the estrogen. I needed the balance. I needed the
right.
love, the light.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
so what happened was really quickly, I did all that training, and
Yeah.
slowly but surely, I'm winning these titles. I've won 3 world titles every second year, and I'm starting to get all these injuries. And I have best physios, best doctors, best medicines, and I'm going around and around in circles, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. But remember, I'm racing with that killer animal instinct inside of me, and I finally get sent by Jeffrey Shoecraft, my manager, to see Keith Maitland. I walk in, and at this stage, by the way, in the rewards, I've hung out with Madonna. I've met Michael Jackson, hung
Wow.
out with him. I've been on Baywatch with the whole crew, starred with Pam, and we've toured with the Beach Boys. We're the backup act for the Beach Boys. They're just
And
4 easy
are you
ones.
30 at this point? You're 30 years old
I'm
and quite.
I'm 27.
Yeah, I mean,
20, 27. And there's
yeah.
a John Denver song, Rocky Mountain High, after he went through a transition with Werner Erhardt's work of I can't remember what it's called, EST training, and the song is he was born in the summer of his 27th year,
Mm,
coming home to a place he'd never been before, coming home to a place he'd never been before. Um, you might say he found a key to every door, like place he'd never been before. He left yesterday behind him, and you might say he found a key to every door, something like that. I
yeah.
literally walked into Keith Maitland's office as
Yes.
the warrior, and
Mm-hmm.
he said to me, your body's telling me you won't win another world title unless you deal with some things. It's
Mm,
collapsing around you. 2 major things. One is I think you might be dairy intolerant.
yeah.
And I'm thinking, F you, mate, don't take chocolate ice cream off me. It's the only thing keeping me alive.
Mm,
Why? Because the sugar, the comfort, the love, the dopamine,
Yeah, the
You know,
swallowing.
the,
There's
the,
something about swallowing dairy.
mm,
It is dopamine. It makes it goes down the back of our throat. It
yeah.
ignites the pleasure hormone, like I believe, like when we were sucking milk. As
Oh, 100%. If you
that's
put
the thing
chocolate
I
with
think.
that, because the
No,
funny thing is,
I agree.
the only ice cream I like is ice cream with chunks of chocolate in it.
Right.
It's the dairy, but with the sugar, like the chocolate in it. And,
Yeah.
they say chocolate is as addictive as opium or whatever. It's like, so that was my survival cycle.
You were calming yourself down and you're probably using that to drop cortisol.
That
If
was
you were
giving
to
myself the
analyze it.
reward and everything else. But my
Yeah.
body was going, you can't keep doing that. There's a system out of whack. For
Mm.
starters, I was racing and training with angst inside of me. So I'm racing like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you reckon, do you? And
Yeah.
so everything was pulled in, and so I wasn't a balanced, happy being. But
Mm.
so I walk in, Keith, he says, dairy, and he goes, oh, and also, I think you might have some anger issues that you
Mm.
haven't dealt with. And I'm
Very brave
smiling
of him to say that
like
up front.
he tells me years later, he reckons it was like there was a light pole between him and I, and he held onto it while his feet went off the ground as the hurricane hit him. Because the
Wow.
energy coming out of me was like, I'm going to kill you, mate. You know,
Wow.
he said it felt like energetically, it was like, whoa, I've just actually poked the bear. But
Mm.
I'm like, as I did, smiling assassin, I smiled and went, oh, yeah. But behind myself, I was walking up and down going, who the F is this guy think he is? What the fuck? Da, da, da. And I'm walking, I'm literally reacting like I was two people,
Mm.
you know? And then part of me goes, mental note to self, I do appear to be really angry about what he just said. I remember the moment and I went, oh, so as Eckhart would say in Power of Now and New Earth, etc.,
Mm.
the observer popped in
Mm.
me. And for the first time, the anger guy was there, but someone held a space, and I separated a little moment, and the observer came in and said, "Oh, I do appear to be angry, but I can't be the angry one because everyone else is angry. I'm the calm one." It was like my
A
shop
bit
front was.
denial, do you think?
Oh, it was like my game was the way I played it. It was not only in denial; it allowed me to control everybody, it allowed me to look good and get what I want. And so I got all the sponsorships and still got to smash and beat everybody in secret and silent from an angry place. But I
Mm.
could be the nice guy next door. And
Mm.
my best mates, Rido, Leachy, all that, they didn't know whether to love me or hate me
Right.
because I love Trevor, but I hate the fact that he just doesn't give us an inch, like he
Yeah.
won't give us. And so because I was two people,
Mm.
and yeah, funny stories. Years later, I met Kelly Slater, and Kelly, I felt like a brother to Kelly, and we
Yeah.
met, and we hit it off. We just spoke all night. We were just we've worked together for years. I helped him with a lot of stuff, and because I'd been through the same process,
Mm.
and we spoke about the monster inside, and the competitive monster, and he could finally tell someone about it. We could also finally talk to each other about when you're swimming in, or he was sitting in the lineup, and he needed a 9.6, and to win the event, and I needed a wave, and we both knew when and where the wave was coming. We both had this
You both
thing.
have that very intuitive,
The
uh,
ocean,
indescribable, sorry, is the right word. I've watched
yeah,
you and I've watched Kelly, and I just go, how did they know to pick and wait?
and waiting. We did. We
I think
always,
that's
and I
really.
would swim, and I would actually not speed up to win the race.
Mm.
I'd go, no, I've got to stay in this rhythm, and I'd pick up the wave exactly when it came.
Mm.
And he had the same thing. He'd sit there and you get the score. And the ocean is very feminine. The
Right.
ocean is very fluid. She's round. She's circular. She picks you up. She floats you. Always said she. And
Yeah.
so we were both in love with the ocean.
Mm.
So she was our primary relationship. We both struggled in relationships, but both our primary love was I feel at home in the ocean. I feel nurtured. I feel loved. I feel looked after by the Mother Earth in the ocean.
Yeah.
So we were both kept afloat by
Mm.
that, whilst we both had insane competitive desire. Like everyone always thought he had something up his sleeve and everything else. And even when he started to let go of that, and he was just more trusting and natural. No, Kelly's always trying to plan something. He said that word for a reason,
Mm.
playing mind games. And I had the same sort of thing. So what was funny was we started working together, and I'll come back to Keith in a moment, but he was asked by Trax magazine, oh, last dream you had. And he goes, oh, last dream, just last night. I was being chased by two different Trevor Hendys. And he told me, and I went, that's so strange because I think I'm still two people. I'm still learning how to actually resolve the old person. And
Mm.
we were great mates, but am I still you know, there's still part of the old hanging
Reality,
around
right?
me, you know, it's sort of crumbling the relationship. But there was this two people inside of me, and I left. I drove up the road from Keith, and I got over. And I've never told that story before, by the way, that part of it. But
Hmm.
I drove over the hill, and what happened was, I'm shaking. I'm driving. I'm angry, you know. And he said to me, "Come back tomorrow if you want to work with me,
Hmm.
and bring some food samples, and we'll work on your allergies, and we'll work on this emotional stuff too." He said, "It's chemical, emotional, structural, another triangle."
Hmm.
He said, "You're trying to fix the structural, but you're out chemically, emotionally. Let's get that sorted, and the structural will come good."
Hmm.
And I'm like, and I'm angry. I get over the hill, and I actually all of a sudden go, uh, and I'm shaking my arm as I'm driving the car, and I'm like, my shoulder's not hurting.
It's
Hang on,
freeing
my
up.
hip's not hurting. I'm not actually
Hmm.
aching. And I'm like, what? And I go, he didn't touch me, you know. And then this voice said, he told you the truth. It was a really clear. And I drove over Burley Hill, and I drove out of a fog I'd been in for years, which was the fog of needing to win at all costs.
Yeah.
And I drove out of it for a few moments, and all the trees were rich and full and green, and the colors, and I was still. And I was in the moment. I was like, what's this? What's this? And I went, God, I haven't felt this since I was like 14 or 15, since
Yeah.
I got chased and flushed and initiated.
Yeah.
Since I went, that's it, F you, I'm not trusting anybody anymore, too many things in a row. And I just became a wall up between me, girlfriends, friends, you know, and I was still nice and friendly, but you're not getting in, you know. And I was
Yeah.
like, I came out. I feel emotional when I talk about it because I in that moment I switched not from a reward, but I switched out of the amygdala to prefrontal, and everything opened up like a horizon, but
Mm.
not from a reward. It
Mm.
wasn't from hard work. It wasn't from winning. I get to relax now. It was actually from truth. It
Mm.
was like a new pathway into stillness and into peace and into I can relax. So I went back then. I was going back to prove him wrong, you know, which I was going to go work with him to
To
help
F
him
you and
fix me
win.
so I could win the world title to prove him wrong about the fact that I couldn't win one, which
Mm.
is that's what the ego does. It works in stupid riddles.
Mm.
But by then I was going back to work out what did he just do, and it sent me down a path of workshopping and work and personal development and seminars and deep rooted healing and
Mm.
healing with Jackie, you know. And by this stage, I'm now with Joe and having like a beautiful relationship and found someone I've just felt so many likenesses with. And, you
Mm.
know, it was a beautiful second version of having a relationship with someone.
Mm.
But all the shit that I hadn't dealt with was in my face. If I hadn't dealt with it with Jack, it was going to come up with Joe, and I got encouraged and promoted to deal with it because it wasn't to do with them, it was to do with me. And in
Mm.
the end, I ended up in love with all of them, you know, and
Yeah.
because that's who we are. So
Mm.
that was the way the whole thing unfolded, and why I ended up walking the path where I can talk not from, I don't have a formal qualification
Mm.
in some of these things that we're talking about, but I have a life qualification in walking it, helping others walk it, and watching people free out, watching their life improve. I've lived it, you know, and it
Yes.
is all about a man finally knowing who he actually is
Right.
and welcoming him, embracing the journey we had to get there. But at the end of the day, I'm so thankful for all the screw ups, the
Mm.
F ups, the times that I spent betraying others and being an absolute dickhead,
Mm.
because the degree to which I did that has made me a much better person now, because I can see I've forgiven it in myself. I've asked for forgiveness, and I've also gone, oh my God, it wasn't even me. This is me. And you know, just having people relieved to get the humble, simple, you know, you back is a really beautiful process to go through.
Yeah, I mean, you're one of my favorite people on the planet, you know,
I think that.
you just
Likewise.
have such, you know, you have power through a different energy. It's a very connecting,
Yeah,
loving
yeah,
energy. And
yeah,
um,
yeah.
can I just go back to how you said you felt like there were two people inside, and not just in front of Keith, but just in everyday life?
Yeah.
Do you know or think that, have you talked to other guys? Is that a common thing that
It,
people
it
at that
is
age feel that duality?
so common, men
Right.
and women. And you know, I love Joe, my beautiful wife. She does this amazing work, the Sacred Sister Project, and she goes into schools and works with teenage girls and even younger girls these days, and teachers, and you know, and parents and stuff like that. And she has a process that was originally called the Itty Bitty Shitty Committee.
Right. Oh,
You know?
yeah. We've all
Yeah,
got one of those.
yeah. She'd learned it with
Yeah.
somebody else, and she's had to change it to the itty bitty pity committee because you can't swear in primary schools, you know. Um,
Huge.
but itty bitty shitty committee, what is it? It's itty bitty, it's small, hard to
Yeah.
see. It's shitty, it's negative,
Yeah.
and it's a committee. It's a chorus of voices, you know.
Yeah.
And so she ultimately helps them see this, and then so
So
they
this
can
is that
see.
you're not good enough, you're silly, why are you even thinking about that? You're not going to be successful. It's that little
Oh,
voice
and
that could be our voice,
yeah,
usually, but it can be grandmother's voice or someone else's voice that we've personified to be, yeah, the itty bitty shitty committee, I guess.
yeah. And to be honest, like it's not polite at all. So even for primary school girls, it's saying things like, "You're a stupid, dumb, fat little bitch, and you should shut your mouth, and you don't deserve to live, and you should kill yourself." And you
Yes.
know, through the life changer work that Scotty Waters and I started, and the team are incredible now. And I'm not working in there with them, but I went through a lot of the schools with them. We amount of times we'd find the young boys saying, "Yeah, no, I've got a voice telling me to kill myself all the time," you know. So we're not seeing the ones that have got the voice. We're just seeing the ones that have actually done something that
Mm.
shows the behaviors. And then we come back to ourselves and go, yeah, I've got a voice saying, oh, what are people going to think of you if you do that? Oh, you're never going to be able to pay the house off if you don't keep working this job. Like it's the voice of doubt, you know. And so Joe calls it the the gremlin, or the voice of doubt, voice of judgment,
Right,
VOJ, the voice of judgment,
right.
right, in a process. So she helps the girls recognize the voice of judgment, and they draw a picture and they write it all down and they name it.
Mm.
So shit face Sally, or you know, like they have to try and swear to get the energy out.
Mm.
And then they go, oh my God, and they laugh about this thing that's hidden inside of us.
Mm.
And then as soon as they can see it, it doesn't have power over them anymore.
Right.
And
They meet it.
then she goes, now that you can see it, what's the voice of wisdom saying about the same thing? So you got the gremlin and the goddess,
Yes.
okay?
Nice.
And or the voice of judgment and the voice of wisdom. And so what's the goddess saying, these young girls? And the goddess says, you've got this, you can do it, you are loved, you know, you are powerful, you're good, you know what, and it's so not only have I discovered it in everybody I've worked with. I've done over 10,000 hours. And I remember when I worked with my mate Colin, he'd say he'd done 10,000 hours of work on people. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I've done that myself now as well. It's like, wow, you know, and it's in everybody. We have a voice. It's the
Yeah.
one thing we don't see. Eckhart Tolle spoke about it. The voice inside's going, look what they did to you. It's always pointing outwards. And then eventually you've got to go, whoa, hang on. No, you're the problem, and not point to yourself, but point to the voice that's hiding inside of your space and go,
Yeah.
what are
We are.
you? Where did you come from? When were you born?
Yes.
You
We're
know,
not our thoughts, are we?
we're
Like,
not our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. If we imagine if we were our thoughts, because all the incredible thoughts we've had about ourselves and the shit thoughts we've had about us are
mm.
clearly not our thoughts, because we're not that incredible. We're not that shit, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but ultimately, once we get and we can see that there is a mind that's trying to close off the exits, you
Mm.
know, that we don't, the mind doesn't want us to work with our spirit, with the voice of wisdom or the voice of this, you know, the Holy Spirit, or it wants us to stay in the mind, and
Mm.
not our mind, because it's not our mind, but it's operating in our space. But when you review, it's not my mind. When did it start? You know, and then we go, oh my God, my mum had the same thing, or my dad had the same thing, and you got to have forgiveness and understanding for them.
Yes.
The rot's got to stop with us. But it
Yeah.
is an alter ego. It is a shadow version of ourselves. All the terms we've heard. It is, you know, there's a front cover that we project that I'm all good, or I'm sexy, or I'm cute, or I'm cool, or I'm funny, or I'm no good, or whatever. And there's a back cover. You know,
Mm.
people that are projecting the front cover of I'm no good often have a back cover of I'm really worried that I'm actually really powerful. I don't want to show anybody.
Mm.
People have a front cover of um, I'm awesome, get
Mm.
out of my way. Often have a back cover of I hope they don't see that I'm a piece of shit and I've been on the take
And
for
I've
a
been
while.
faking it for a
Or
bit.
no,
Yeah.
you know, they're opposite to each other,
Mm.
but they squeeze in and they squash in this beingness, this spirit inside of us, which is who we naturally are when we're not in the thinking self. So the
Yes.
two selves is actually the little me, the little self,
Yes,
not even who I really
our
am.
the little Trevor, the little child,
Yeah.
the little Sammy, the little whoever.
Little rejected me, little
Yes.
desperate need to be loved and
Hurt.
acknowledged me, and got a story about how mum didn't love me that day, and then dad did, and that kid did that to me at the bubbler, and then the teacher smacked me, and I'm slowly building up an FU to everybody in the whole world, and then I got flushed and chased, and then he stole my girlfriend, and that's it. And I birthed, I've got all the seedlings, and then I birthed that Trevor, and that Trevor, no one's going to hurt that Trevor, and
Yes.
that Trevor was actually the part I hurt myself, and I hurt everybody else with it, not knowing it, because I thought I was just going to get some power, but ultimately I've discovered that with so many people that I've had the pleasure of working with, is that it's just hovering right there. And if you're really still with someone, even your best friends, you'll go, oh shit, we're talking about everything about what other than what you're actually going through, and you don't have to say, you okay, mate? There's that. I know we do that once a year, but
Yeah.
we can actually just go, hey mate, I missed you, and you can pat your mate on the shoulder or your friend and say, hey Trevor, you're all right. And you can just really softly, gently hold a space, and they can start telling you, no, I've actually been shit for ages. Da, 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 da. I've actually struggled with the business. I'm trying to make it work, and it's just not working. And this and that. And oh God, I'm bringing it home. Like, we have so much opportunity to make a difference to each other and recognize that we're all carrying around a battle or a wound or a self.
Bit of
It's
a
not ourself.
trauma from
And when we're in it,
yeah.
we're up in here, we're
Mm.
producing those chemicals, we're in those brain waves. I'm trying to remember what's the brain wave that we're in when we're in the amygdala, fight or flight. Is
Well,
it?
it's alpha delta gamma.
It's. I always get them mixed up, but
I think alpha.
um,
I don't know.
I
I
think
don't
it's
want to say
alpha.
because
But
someone
and
will
then
look at this and go, she doesn't know.
yeah, no,
No,
we'll report back with that. We'll
we
put it in the
will.
notes. But it's actually the craziest thing, because it's a spiritual thing we're talking about. It's a
Mm.
psychological thing we're talking about. It's an energetic thing we're talking about. So, like a Nikola Tesla saying, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah,
Everything's energy; it's just vibrating at different frequencies. So, one thought and one emotion is carrying a different frequency to it.
yeah,
It'll attract more of that, and if we go into that frequency, the body thinks I'm in a struggle, and I go into that thought, the body goes into the struggle and the fight. My pattern, shoulders will come forward, the guts will be protected like I'm in a sword fight, and I'm ready to win the race. I'm going to breathe all to the right. I won't breathe both sides because the battle's on. Leachy's after my title, or it's all sits there, and I've slowly but surely had to change that physiology to not go into those reactions, and just to keep myself open in the face of adversity and say, okay, this is not real. This is just a battle trying to get me to go into myself again and to fight against someone. I'm not actually against someone. I
no.
probably agree with them deep down. We've got to find out what it is we agree about.
Yeah, and I'll just pick up the threads there, and we could talk about ancestral healing and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of unconscious patterning that happens, and even come back and talk about trauma, because that I think what we the itty bitty shitty committee um,
Mm.
is, and the things the unconscious mind doesn't actually move through the time frames that we move through physically. So when
Mm.
something happens, like it feels like your head's being bashed against a water fountain, you go back to that 7-year-old survival self. And how do we, as evolving people learning about our body and our responses to the external world, start to master that? And that takes courage, and it takes
Mm.
conversation. And
Yep.
often grown-ups standing around a barbecue talking with your mates, you don't get out a piece of paper and say, draw down that,
Mm.
you
Yeah. Yes.
idiot.
Show me your itty bit. Yeah. Yeah.
So the kids are fortunate they're getting that, because that is, drawing and expressing that way is just so powerful. But let's just talk a little bit deeper about what you now have unfolded about your physiology. And because do you agree that mastering the internal, or understanding internal, is a really I don't want to keep using the word
Yeah.
powerful, but great way to experience more fruitful life?
100%, Sam. And let's link it back to what you just said before, too. Like, I view everything from body, mind, and soul. So the physicality, the mentality, and the energetic, soul, at an even individual level, what I'm like as a soul, but expanding into spirit. What is spirit really? Because spirit's very expansive and beautiful and powerful. And we're at that end of the scale of understanding and appreciation of consciousness. We're all much more similar than we are different.
Mm,
So there's the guy that's getting angry. In the middle of getting angry, he's actually getting more angry at himself that he's angry again. And he's like finishing his, and then he's upset at himself, and he's like mad at himself because, oh, I got angry again. I let down the missus or the kids, or, you know, because
Shame,
he's
guilt.
shame,
Yeah.
guilt, beating
All these
himself
low
up.
vibrating
Yeah,
frequencies
making
kicking into
self wrong. Remember, there's a self that's grown inside. So
mm,
making self wrong, which actually just powers self up. Because
mm.
now we go and have to go over the beer, or we have to make up, do right, and we actually, the pattern just repeats a month later, 2 months, 3 months later, because it's on a never-ending loop or a cycle. But the actual guy, the girl, whoever, they know that's not me. That's
Mm,
not me. I'm not proud of the way I just reacted. We know it's not me, but we just can't shake it.
mm,
But when someone waves the red flag, the red thing, the red shirt in front of our face again, well, we're back into it again. So we have this hair trigger
mm.
that goes based on this subconscious self that you mentioned, that from way back when my father hit me, or way back when I got flushed, initiated the surf club, or whatever it is for me, way back. And my dad never actually hit me, I don't think, but way back, it's plugged something in,
Mm.
and it re-stimulates this memory, and the body goes, we're in fight or flight.
Yeah.
It flushes the cortisol and adrenaline, and we push everything away, and we go into whatever pattern we go into, and everyone's slightly different, but it's much more similar than it is different.
Yes.
Um, so we're much more similar in our wounding than we are different.
Yeah.
Some people play out the perpetrator, and some people play out the victim, but when you get down below it, they're actually very similar when you get down to the roots of self-doubt,
They're hurt.
of hurt, of
Yeah.
broken, of given up on self. One's given up on self, so invited to be angry. The other one's given up on self, invited to be sad.
Yeah.
So when you really break it down and you work on the inside, the internal, you get so many more answers, and you
Yeah.
start to unplug from the automated responses that the body goes through and the psychology goes through.
Mm.
But we can hack that. You
Mm.
can't always stop in the middle of a meeting and say, stop, I need to actually just view my inner child here because I seem to be reacting to an old situation.
Yeah.
You get a conscious group of people about you around, you can actually say funny stuff. It's not airy-fairy bullshit like, oh, I haven't got a safe space and you triggered me. You can actually, like Joe and I will say, she'll say, da 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 da. And I'll go, well, you must be right because I want to punch you in the face.
Oh, we say pineapples. So if we're getting a bit like I'm if I feel, or my partner feels like we're going to a place of discomfort that's overwhelming, and we're
Yeah,
starting to crush down our parietal and temporal lobe, which is
yeah,
so important for
yeah.
interpreting external feedback.
Perfect.
We just go pineapples. Like,
Pineapples,
I need
pineapples.
some time out.
Yeah, so we'll say, we'll laugh about our reaction to it because it'll be clear I've never punched a woman in the face. But
Yeah.
the energy that comes up, we're like, oh, I feel really now like I want to, and we'll explore the thought together. I go, oh, you must be right. And then as soon as someone says you must be right because I've got a reaction, then you both start laughing
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's not so serious. It's like, oh, just say it to me again, but just deliver it a bit softer, and you work your way through this thing that's hidden. But the reason we say it is that's great. You can do that with people that you're conscious with. It's hard in relationship because it's very sort of tricky. But with friends that you grow and you can start talking, oh, you got a moment? I just want to chat to you. I've got this thing bubbling up in me. I just want to get it out.
Mm.
And sometimes you have to say, stop giving me answers, just let me get it out. But
Yes.
so that's great. Processing, clearing, counseling, therapy, awareness practices, they're wonderful, they're beautiful. But
Mm.
if we look at it from the other way around, when I get in a fight or flight,
Mm.
I'm going to go into that amygdala. I'm going to produce those chemicals.
Mm.
I'm going to tighten up. I'm going to have certain behaviors and certain actions. But one thing that's absolutely going to happen is I'm going to breathe related to what my mind now thinks the situation I'm in. I'm in danger. So I tighten up in the diaphragm,
Mm.
and I'm breathing into the chest, a bit shallower, and I'm thinking, how do I get out of this situation? And I'm ready to run. I'm ready to run from that cave to that cave and avoid the saber-toothed tiger.
Yes.
It's just chemistry.
Yes.
But while I'm in that chemistry, which is not even real, because all it did was someone said, oh, I'm not so sure what you meant by that email. What do you mean? Right, know what
Yes.
I mean? So what actually happens is I could hack that because if I'm breathing really fast based on all this stuff, because my autonomous nervous system has just been told via my memory, my deep
Your life's under threat.
your life's under threat. I'm now in this hot, it's now may as well be real.
Yeah.
And people's looking at my eyes spinning around, and what I just said to you, hey, we could probably do that a bit better,
Yeah.
So if I went, whoa, look, I've actually in that reaction. Once I know the difference of what I feel like when I'm in my true self,
Mm.
oh no, I'm tight, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm reactive, I want to fight or I want to flight, oh, I'm in the thing. So as soon as we go, oh, I'm in something, we can actually have recognition rather than just go down that path. And we can actually say, all right, so, right, stop, breathe. So it can be in the middle of a meeting, a Zoom meeting,
Yeah.
and you can actually just go,
Mm.
breathe all the way out. And the mind's going, don't let this go. You let him know what you think about this situation. And you're just going, no, that's not me. That's never amounted to much good. And then you're breathing slowly in and you're bringing your breath all the way past that chest breath and into the diaphragm, into the belly, which is down to where we call the yogic breath.
Mm.
And then we stop, and we actually stop, and we don't start breathing out. And then we start again. We breathe further into the chest. And you can do that. No one, I'm exaggerating it now so you can see it, but people don't even notice you're doing it. And then you can put a bit into the head breath or the throat breath where the free divers breathe into, and you go, put it right on the top, and it goes, pushes up to the third eye.
Pineal gland, yeah.
Spiritual terms, pineal gland, where we can see the truth. That's not, there's no seeing, there's no speaking the truth, there's no feeling the truth. I'm down in the definition, down in the solar plexus. I'm trying to get power back because I think I've lost power. I haven't. I'm just in reaction. And what happens is one or two of those breaths, the autonomous nervous system says, well, hang on, we can't be in danger because no one breathes in twice, 3 times in a row, slowly into all these different parts of the body when they're running from a saber-toothed tiger. No. They don't breathe out slowly, calmly, We mustn't be. My mind's telling me that there's a problem, but actually my breathing's telling me there is no problem. So what's crazy, the consciousness of our breathing switches us 2 or 3 breaths and we go boom, and then we actually feel that old self that wants to fight, it loses power, it almost crumbles and dissolves and disappears. And then we actually look, and our prefrontal cortex opens up, we can see the other person, we go, oh, are you worried about what's going to happen with that? I'm sensing you. God, yeah, I'm sorry about the way I said that, but I'm really worried about Why are you worried? What is it? I think we've got this covered. Why are you worried? Oh, I've actually been in this situation before, and all of a sudden our whole thing changes the whole relationship, not just our own self.
Communication, the negotiation, whatever it is, suddenly becomes more, oh, let's do this together.
Yeah, we're in it together because there's not a fight. But what I've just explained is there's counselling we can do on ourselves.
Yes.
Just breathing in a moment to just bring ourselves back in the moment. But if we go further across the scale away from counselling, there's breathing classes, there's yoga, there's eating, there's not eating from the amygdala, there's not eating from the need for the reward, there's not eating, there's not drinking the beer because I just it's the only thing I've got. My beer after races was my thing, which I got off straight away with Keith, and dairy and chocolate. Yeah. I got off straight away.
The release valve, whatever that is.
Oh, I stretched more. I learned yoga, actually. I came back the next year. We had 10 international races. I got 8 firsts and 2 seconds after my body nearly being collapsed. I proved him right, not wrong. Yeah. Because that included winning the world title and it was my 4th, and I perfected the race for the only one time at that world championship. And I went, oh my God, I'm done with my mission to perfect the race. Learning to do it that way, from that place of stillness and that place of viewing my body, mind, soul, my chemical, emotional, structural as one beautiful big thing, actually made me the best Ironman in the world, from the best place, with the best recovery, with the best results, with the best outlook, and with no need to be that guy anymore. Like, I was winning, and I was it's funny to say I was humble, but I was actually let's just say I was so much less ego, because humility still took a long time, but the ego was getting broken apart, and I just fell in love with people again. Yeah. So these practices, these mindful practices, these movements, these walking, going to the gym to move the portions of your body that are actually trying to keep you alive and active and keeping your range of movement actually just flushes shit out of you, flushes the complaint you've had for 5 years about the old boss that was an arsehole to you, or your ex-partner that ripped you off, or, just doing movement to actually clean the body, mind, and soul out. So it has a bigger purpose behind it. It's not to look good. You can still look good. You can still look lean and light and everything else. But the purpose for it is to be a better version of yourself, is to be more calm and still, resilient, more calm power that you can handle your children's ups and downs with, and your partner and your ex-partner, the person you always knew you were. That's the way I view the physicality of it all. And it's an absolute gift, because I've cycled all the way back to go, oh my God, I'm missing the picture if I don't go back and look after the body for the purpose of longevity, health span, being a better version of myself. I want to help my grandkids learn this, not just my kids. Yeah. I want to be around helping my great-grandkids while I'm surfing pipeline with them and, skiing a double black run and running up a hill with them to go jump off a waterfall. I want to do that. That's my physical goal, is to do all that when I'm 80.
Yes, same.
That's why I'm doing it all.
That's youth. That's life. Yeah.
So when I pick up the beer, or the beer thing fell away from me, the alcohol thing, because I recognized that I felt so good after these breakthroughs. I had a beer, I felt less than good. It made me feel soupy and weird. It's like, oh, I don't want alcohol anymore, and so I haven't drank in years, in decades actually. But okay, that's how that helps.
Yes, because I was just going to ask, and I was going to go back a little bit. We've been talking about flow and stillness and allowing that harmony in our physiology to appease the soul and the mind through our physical movement. Yeah. Just before that, which I think is where a lot of people do struggle, is the recognition of when they're going into fight or flight. It can come on like a switch. And I'm an intensive care nurse and coronary care nurse. We often used to they still do, put people up to adrenaline, noradrenaline infusions. And the little lever that you pull on to give someone a squirt of adrenaline is just a little rubber thing, and it'll give them micrograms. And you see the blood pressure dipping, you pull it and poof, it goes up. It is instantaneous. Wow. So that's to me, the trickiest part of all of this is, well, one, having these conversations and actually having the courage and curiosity to go, maybe this is happening to me more than I like. And then secondly, how do I recognize it? So what would you say to people who go, well, you've just described me, but how the hell do I start intervening with that breath when I need to? What are the tools that people can practice, I guess, to become more insightful when it's happening?
A couple of tools. One is recognition and awareness. So you do know deep down, everyone knows that's not the real me. I'm not anxious. I'm not depressed. I'm not angry. I'm not moody. That's not the real me. So we know this deep inside of ourselves. So just validate and support that knowing. You don't have to know what to do about it straight away. The first step is just going, that's not me right now. I'm in a reaction. I'm not in a creative moment. I'm in a reactive moment. I'm not in a responsive moment. I'm in a reactive moment. I'm reacting to something. So if we can say I'm reactive, then we say, well, stop reacting. Don't add to it. Just stop what we're doing. Stay right here. Even if we haven't got out of it yet. That's the first thing, is break the cycle of just following the same old pattern. So the awareness to go, that's not me. I'm not just going to do the same old. I'm not going to yell back or withdraw or da-da-da-da. Maybe if it's the right person, I might even give it voice and say, this is where I normally withdraw. I find this really tough. Because part two is, once you recognize that that's not me, how does the real me operate? How does the old me, the reactive me, operate? Almost guarantee you, if everyone looks at it, it reacts solo. It acts in solo terms. Me, I, this, that, they didn't.
Yes.
I.
Very true.
Self. We make it about me. So it's me and the world, me and my stupid bitch, me and my stupid bastard, me and this, blah, blah. That guy, my mother just says that, I'm a grown woman. Stop speaking to me that, we have all these reactions. There's so many of them we can name. But, okay, I'm reacting. No, that's not me. I don't want to be that anymore. I'm going to do what it takes to not be that. I don't know how to do it. I'm going to do what it takes. Well, the very first cycle to break is stop just being just me. Ask for help. Tell someone else that you're going through it. Break the cycle. Turn it on its head, because it can only exist if you stay in the solo. You know, so Keithy Maitland that I mentioned, that was 1993. I walked in his office. 32 years later, and every Wednesday morning that I'm home and he's home, we get together and sit on the beach together, roll out a picnic blanket, sit up at the top of the sand dunes, have a chat, share what we're going through. At the end of it, have an ocean swim together, walk off the beach. Love you, mate. Love you, mate. Just equals. You know, he helped me, but I end up helping him and vice versa. We just share. And I can tell you right now, a problem shared is a problem halved.
Definitely.
Once it's halved, it's on its way to being done, because most of us can deal with half of our problem. We just can't deal with the whole thing. It's about the 80-90% we get overwhelmed when it gets up to the 80% level. And so, you know, we'll often say to each other and other mates, Kane Johnson, you know, ex-Richmond captain, AFL premiership player, we're best mates. Mark Tiger Kluwer, you know, we're in business together, but we'll ring each other, mate, you got a moment, just want to chat about something. And we'll share. My children, my wife, you know, we share with each other. And the crazy thing is this itty-bitty shitty committee, this energy that's attacking me, it can't get a hold of me once I've said, oh, I'm not going to hide away with it. I'm not going to suppress it. I'm not going to pretend I'm all good. Once I say, oh, I'm in a reaction at the moment, I'm having a real shit day, person will go, oh, I thought you were, or what's going on, or I'm having a shit day too. And it can't survive in collaboration.
Yes.
It can only survive in separation. It cannot survive. So you got to find the people around you. You don't talk to someone, you don't tell them about your stuff. If they go, yeah, well, I tell you what you should do, kick the arsehole in the balls, you know, like, you don't tell someone who can't handle the stuff. You just find the people around you slowly but surely that you can just have an honest conversation with, and you laugh with each other, you get it off your chest. Good girlfriends do that for each other. Good mates do that for each other. You know, we're not always that for each other. Sometimes we lock each other in and we make each other right. Say, oh, I can't believe he's treating you like that. That's not what we want. You know, we want, come on, get it off your chest and go back and make it work, you know?
Yes.
But recognition it's not me, and actually ask, you know, decide, recognition it's not me, decide you're going to change it, don't need to know how, and then start asking. Look for a course online, pull up a video on it, read a book, you know, go to some counseling if it's a deeper one. You know, get some help from someone that comes to mind. They're intuitive, they come in and you go, oh, I need to ring so-and-so and ask them for help, you know. You bump across someone. The amount of people, I can't tell you, Sam, that go, you know, had the Howie Games. Mark Howard has the Howie Games podcast. Really popular one as sports people around the world. In the early days, we did one. It's like 2016, I reckon we did it together. I still get people, you know, probably once a month, you know, say, oh, I heard you on the Howie Games. I realised I need to reach out and ask for some help, you know.
Lovely.
Because I shared so openly about what I've been through, as I have done today. And people go, my God, that's me.
Yes.
You know, and certain person will go, God, Trevor, can you help me? Or someone like that person, or Sam, can you help me? Because the help's there. It's not oscillating in our space, because we're actually saying, I don't want it. Just leave me alone. I'm going to deal with this on my own, you know, or we're going to complain about it. Complaining about it's not actually trying to change it. So we'll attract the people to our space that want to help us complain about it or want to fight us on it. But if we actually decide vibrationally, frequency-wise, if we go, I'm done with this, I want to be the better version of myself, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to do yoga, I'm going to just start doing whatever comes to mind, the things, and the saying is, the universe will never give you a problem without hiding a solution within it. And it'll never give you a problem you're not capable of handling. And I think they said that to Mother Teresa. You know, Mother Teresa said, oh, God says, you know, apparently God never gives you a problem that you can't handle. Well, God must have a lot more faith in me than I do, because I don't know what to do about this situation. You know, so it's very much true that we've got to come out of the self to solve the problems of the self. We can't just, Einstein said, doing this definition of insanity, doing the same thing we did today, yesterday, and expecting a different result. He also said, you cannot solve a problem on the same level of mind that was created. So we have to think differently. We have to reverse our procedure and go the opposite direction. Don't go away from the fight. Go towards it and say, I'm sorry. You know, don't defend our position. Say, hey, I always defend my position. I think you might be right because I'm reacting pretty deeply. And my old teacher said, how you can tell you're in an untruth is because the truth doesn't need defending. So if you find yourself defending, you're defending something that's not the truth. You
Interesting.
know, and I love the Christian saying, know the truth and the truth shall set you free. So
Mm.
if you're in a reaction, it can't be the truth, what you're thinking. Well, I can't believe they said that. Well, they can't say that to me. That can't be the truth because the truth sets you free. It doesn't turn you into a warmonger or
Yeah.
someone
Defending
in
the
need for
person.
revenge or depressed. The truth sets you free.
Yeah.
Doesn't lock you into negative patterns. So body, mind, soul absolutely works. And just share with others and start to build your community and drop the need to be the guy, the girl, the one, separate. Oh, keep my stuff to myself. We've all got the same shit. Why
Yeah.
would you? Don't keep it to yourself. When you share it, you'll realize everyone else has got it, and then you'll lose it very fast.
Yeah, and it doesn't, I mean, I've written down a couple of words here. Often there's this narrative or dialogue in Australia, takes courage to go and seek help. I don't think there's an
Mm,
element of that, but I think it takes a lot of trust and just
mm,
trusting that the process has been replicated, is being replicated as you and I speak. We're sharing, we're feeling better about just getting
mm.
little
Yeah,
stuff out, even though this is for others' benefits. I'm
yeah,
benefiting.
me too. Yep.
Yeah, there's something quite powerful about sharing and not doing life solo, I think. And even it's trust, I
Can I,
think.
and I'll say something on that too, because
Mm,
yes, from one angle it is courage, right? But people will know that are listening to this, they won't change until they're ready. You
mm,
know, like so Eckhart Tolle calls it the inner readiness.
right.
Once the inner readiness is there, nothing will stop you from changing.
Mm,
So if we're actually trying to change but not changing, we're not actually ready. We've still
uh-huh.
got a little addiction to the complaint. We've still got a little addiction. It's still serving us a little bit. It's not. It's killing us. But
Yeah.
at some level, I'm still, I still get to blame them and be right, and I still get to say that thing that happened to me as a child. It's ruined my whole life. Like we still get to hold on to a story of hard done by. It might have been freaking terrible. Might have been horrific what happened. But if it's still defining you now, we have to redefine it inside of ourselves and go, why am I carrying that I can't trust women, I can't trust men, or like all the stuff that I spoke about, can't trust my friends, you know? So we will not let go of it fully until we're ready. And we're usually not ready until it gets bad enough
Pain
that,
so bad.
that we go, oh my
Consequences are
God.
terrible.
As Eckhart Tolle said, he woke up in the middle of the night thinking, oh, I can't live with myself anymore. I can't live with myself anymore. And he goes, I can't live with myself anymore. And it's the same thought he had 1,000 times. He'd been, as a 14-year-old kid, he thought about committing suicide. Now he's a professor, you
Mm.
know, and he's like, I can't live with myself in a one-bedroom bedsit in London, dark, gloomy. I can't live with myself. And he goes, I can't live with myself. Is there two of me? And we've talked about this today. He goes, there's two of me. So who's the I and who's the self? And he's like, goes back to sleep, wakes up in the morning, and he feels like the sun's shining inside the room. He feels still and peaceful, and he's walking around. He's going, "Have I died?" And he walks to the door and opens the door, and it's still the same hallway. And he's
Yes,
like,
like your experience.
and
It's recognizing there's two
there's
fighting
two of him.
forces.
And as
Yeah.
soon as he saw the two of him, the split happened. Like
Mm.
this, the observer saw it, and the separation happened between who he really is and that self that was suffering for so long. And he went, "Oh, I appear to not be thinking." You know, he
Mm.
walked from there to there without a thought. And then he went, "Oh, what's different? I appear to not be thinking." And he went to a Catholic priest, he went to a Zen master, he went to all these different people to go, "What's Zen? What's catharsis? What's this? What's that?" And they'd all say to him, "You've got it. I'm still trying to get it," like this. And he sat on a park bench for 2 years in London and just sit there looking around. It's a beautiful man for people who want to
Eckhart
understand this.
Tolle's
Just look him up.
yeah.
Look him up on YouTube and watch a couple of his clips or sign up to his program. It's well worth it. I did his program. I did his monthly, things that you're available. You remember you can watch whatever his latest talk, because I did it for like 10 years.
Right.
Just for 4 or 5 years, I didn't even watch it. I'm still paying for that. And I'd look at another one. He speaks from the now, from the moment, and the spirit that's coming through him is reminding him who you really are, because he's speaking from his spirit to your spirit.
Mm.
So that feeling is, just know that you are the unconditioned, you are the beautiful, you've got this. When you're ready, you will recognize that, I don't want to, and as he thought in the middle of the night, I can't live with myself anymore. And then he went, oh, I can't live with myself anymore. I can't let this self define me. So when we're ready, it will change.
Yeah.
So if it's not changing, just find some quiet space and have a look inside of yourself and go, am I actually ready, or am I still holding? Oh, I'm holding onto that grudge. I'm holding onto the ex-partner being the problem, or the money I got ripped off, or the way my dad treated me. Oh God, do I have to let that go to move forward? And unfortunately, which is fortunately, ultimately, it's yes. You have to not forgive what they did, but forgive the situation, the scenario, because whoever did that to you was also unconscious. They weren't, whatever they did, they weren't in their self either. So, you're only holding on to the negative against the negative. The
Mm.
person did to you whatever was done to them in most cases. So by letting them off the hook and letting the situation go, we actually let ourselves go free.
Yeah.
So quite often that's where the inner readiness comes from. It's letting go of, are we really willing to let go of the story? Are we
Yeah.
really willing to be powerful? Nelson Mandela's inauguration speech, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most.
Yeah. It's
Who am
beautiful.
I to be talented, fabulous, gorgeous? You ask you, who are you not to be? The light of God, I think, shines within you. Da, da, da. It's all about your absolute power. I'm not religious, so I don't usually use the term God, but the spirit inside of you is that powerful.
It's
Call it whatever you
inherently,
want.
I agree. It's inherently
Yeah.
love. The
Yep.
and there's two more things I do want to ask you. But just to touch on that resentment, I went to I think it was called Bethel. It still might be going. It's a 5-day silent retreat with nuns, ex-nuns, and
Mm.
went through each day. There was a theme, and one of the days was about anger and recognizing anger, how it manifests in the behaviors we set up around anger and how we harbor anger,
Mm.
and a lot of really what we've been
Mm.
talking about. But it always stuck with me. They said, when you resent something, all you're doing is resending anger, and
Mm.
then you stay in that contract or that
Yeah,
relationship. And as soon as you recognize it and let go, you don't need, if you don't want that moving forward, it's up to you to just let it drift and go.
so powerful. I love that. Resent it, you've resent it. And
Yes.
and what I will say to people, it's hard to get. This is the hardest bit to get, is that you've not got a negative contract with that old person. You've got a negative contract with the old energy that was running through them the day the thing happened, or the 10 years that it happened. You've actually got a negative contract with a negative energy,
Mm.
with a non-self and not a real self, with a fear and insecurity that was operating as a perpetuated, traumatizing, energy inside that person. So it's the strangest thing is, you've actually locked the date with destiny in with something that was taking that person out, is now
Okay.
taking you out.
Yeah, the past.
It's designed to kill you, to destroy you, to shut you down, to keep you exploring who you really are. That's a really challenging concept for some, because you go, no, it was that asshole. I can tell you it was him. It's like, no, that's not who that person was born as.
Mm.
They have perpetuated and put onto you what they picked up. Maybe it was put onto them. Maybe they just built up that it never would be. Whatever it is, but that forgiveness is saying, forgive them. They know not what they do.
Mm.
They did not know what they did, and it's the strangest thing, but it actually lets you off. It's not a soft
So
forgiveness.
liberating.
It's so liberating. It's not, I forgive what you did because I'm going to hold the higher ground and I'm not going to let that define me any longer. That's still saying, you did it to me and it's all your fault, but I'm going to forgive it. So you're still holding on to the fact that it was done. We
Mm.
look at it and go, well, you know what? It taught me resilience. It taught me to speak for myself. It taught me to actually, it made me actually into a basket case for a while, but ultimately it led me to this realization that I need to let go and love. And so even the negatives, their biggest negatives, they have a silver lining attached to them. And when
Yeah.
we can see it, we eventually don't see it as, oh, it made me tougher and stronger. We eventually go, oh, it's taught me to be forgiving or loving or let go, or to actually to be able to move on. And it's actually a powerful thing that we think that made me a better version for my kids to help them and my parent, even help my parents back to what they've been through as they age or whatever it is. It's these things, they're an opportunity for all of them to be reframed into a gift, not a curse.
That's right. 100%. And the gratitude for past experiences, good, bad, however they were framed and felt at the time, have made us who we are now and
Yeah.
become better versions of ourselves for our own evolution, but also for the wider planet and the people around us.
And that thing's pushed me down that path. I never would have found this person or done this if I
Exactly.
didn't get pushed out of that hidey hole by someone who was, you know, hating on me. It's like, oh, thank you, set me free actually, because I probably would have held on
Thank
too
you.
long. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have backed myself.
Now I'll go to a physical question now.
Mm.
What are your daily practices? Because you're over 50. You look
Yep.
fantastic. You're as strong mentally and physically. Age and testosterone can make us physically
Mm.
weaker, but you're not that. You're not that. And there are things people can do. So what are some of the things that you do that might get people to go, I'm going to do what Trev does, you know?
Yeah, I'm super blessed, Sam, because I'm co-hosting a podcast called FutureLab with Dr. Denise Furness.
What is it, Future Lab or
FutureLab,
oh
FutureLab, like
Lab,
laboratory.
LAB? Yeah,
FutureLab,
Future
yeah.
Lab. Yeah,
It's a longevity health span podcast where
fantastic.
we're backed by Melrose Health, Australian-owned company, doing world-changing things with longevity supplements.
Mm.
Um, high level of nutrition, cutting edge, best scientists brought together from other organizations that are more, publicly owned, that they're just looking for the profit, and they've been brought over to work on with a family company to make the best products on the planet, and amazing ingredients, tapping into products from around the world, ingredients from around the world. So I'm getting with Denise Furness, Dr. Denise, and Danny Urbinder, who was he was education officer, I think, at Blackmores or Bioceuticals, or
Okay.
you know, super smart man, amazing naturopath himself, and I'm doing this podcast, and it's kind of like exploring human potential through the lens of science and soul.
Mm-hmm.
But Denise is science, and the female's the science, and the male's the soul. I'm
Mm.
actually talking about the love and the connection
Normally
of letting
the-
go. And she's saying, well, when you do that, when you breathe through it, epigenetically, what's happening is, because it used to be all genetics, and then it's like, oh, a portion's epigenetics, and epigenetics is genetics to do with your environment. For those that don't know that, and then they're slowly discovering that more genetics are epigenetic than they realize. More genetics have been created by the environment. And as we become more aware of shifting consciousness, changing frequency and vibration, we change more of what we think is the base building blocks of our environment. And our epigenetics are getting larger, which means we can affect them. So Denise is super passionate about nutrition. She's reversed that many cases of Graves' disease, and through nutrition. Incredible practicing doctor, has a healthy living protocol that she does over 12 weeks, and so she started to put me on it, right? And I did the True Diagnostics blood test it's in Colorado, millions of data points around the world of people that have done it, and I did the health span process of using the FutureLab products. There's 11 products, and I just started using the ones that were specific to what I needed based on my genetics and my profile. And I went up to the Northern Territory with Joe, and we ran a seminar up there, and this retreat in Kakadu, a breath retreat with Kane and Mark, and had this beautiful time. And I'm pulling up out of the camping trailer, driving, I'm taking my nutrition, and I'm doing my exercise, and I'm walking, so I came back and I did my test after I came back, and I was basically aging beforehand at around about, I'm 56 and I'm about 56, but I've been through a stressful period of time. I came back and I did the testing as soon as I got back, and my chronological age, my biological age came back at 53. Like I'd already, with 8 weeks of taking this stuff and eating healthy, moving, no alcohol, no sugars, blah, blah, and doing great purposeful work with people. I'm coming back 3 years younger than I'm supposed to be in my cells. But my organ, I'm aging at a rate of 0.73 per year.
They're numbers we can live with.
Yeah,
Means by the
that's
time
pretty
you're
cool.
80, you're going to be out. You're just going to
Yeah, I'm
stay
going
at
to be
45,
70,
mate.
68,
Yeah.
And so, but interestingly, because where does nutrition and the good active, healthy eating and what you're taking out the bad things and putting in the good things, what does it help you first with mostly is your system inside. So your organs, your digestive system, taking the pressure off, getting rid of inflammation, calming the heart, the nervous system, everything starts to happen from this process. I came back, my organ spectrum age, which is the 8 major organs, the average age across that organ spectrum was 40.
Right.
Organs operating like a 40-year-old. My immune system, because I didn't take some of that immune, stuff that protection that we're supposed to have a couple of years ago. My immune system is 37.
Yeah, nice.
So what am I doing to do that? I'm taking good nutrition. I'm trusting that these things are being discovered and found, and I'm asking for help from the right person, someone like yourself, to say, which of those do you think I need to take? What am I doing? I'm moving regularly. At the moment, I'm moving twice a day.
Right.
I'm not exercising twice a day, but I'm moving twice a day. So I might do a breath session and move some system stuff. I might do yoga and just move the body around. Yeah. I might do some qigong and move some very gentle flow practice. But I might go for a body surf and finish with a swim. Or I might walk and jog, or I might go to the gym, whatever. So, but throughout the week, I'm moving twice a day.
Yeah.
And the movement is all designed to actually move this body and move stuff through me. When I go to the gym, this is for men, as a 56-year-old, no testosterone treatments, no nothing. I'm actually eating, I'm fasting in the mornings. I'm eating good proteins before I go to the gym. I'm eating good proteins soon after I finish the gym, and then soon after that having good replacement of healthy sugars, healthy carbs.
Yeah.
But in the gym, we've said it so many times, where the mind goes, the body will follow. So I'm not trying to be strong. I'm trying to be dynamic, because what did I do as a kid? I jumped on the boogie board and slid down the hill. I climbed the tree and swung off it into the water. I caught that body, paddled out, spun around, caught that wave. It wasn't about the fitness. It was about being dynamic. So when I go to the gym, I'm only doing 6 exercises.
Yeah.
And I'm doing back and chest one day, starting with the bigger muscles and going to the smaller muscles. And I'm only doing like maybe 3 12s, 3 10s, 3 8s, with the first one being a warm-up, a bit older, so just lighter weights. Or I might do a 10-8-6 or a 12-10-8. But what I'm actually doing is every exercise, explode out.
Explosive.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the way down. 1. So what I'm actually doing is saying, I want to respond, and I want to hold my strength through that, the eccentric or concentric movement. So on the in movement, I'm holding it, and my gym session takes me 30 minutes. I don't need to, so I might go on the treadmill for a while and do a bit of stairs and a bit of something, just to actually activate the legs if I haven't been able to walk or whatever else. But I'm doing that to just flush the system. I'm not doing cardio to lose weight.
No.
I'm doing the gym to activate my metabolism, to produce. My body goes, oh, and there is a product that I've been taking from FutureLab.
Yeah.
And it's a protein supplement called Muscle Protein Complex.
Yeah.
And
what's it got in it? Has it got creatine in it?
It's got quite a few things. I take the creatine in addition as well.
Okay.
But Sam, you'll love this product. It came from a guy, they've synthesized it in Colorado, I think. The guy, Sean Bayer, you can hear about it on like episode 3 of FutureLab. They've synthesized this product. It's called HMB, because I remember it by HMB as his master's balls, because what it is it's inside the peptide. So inside the amino, we have the peptide. Inside the peptide, we have HMB, and HMB is a signaling molecule. So this signaling molecule, when we ingest it, it tells our body to maintain muscle. Right. And if we're under stress, to build muscle.
Yes.
So as we're aging, we're always under stress. Our body is under a mild level of stress because we're going through sarcopenia. We're actually going through the breakdown of muscle.
Yes.
So at our age, if we have HMB, if you have HMB, you've had surgery, and they've double-blind tested this, Harvard, etc. So this is all claimed. You can claim this. But if you have HMB after a surgery and your leg's in a cast or whatever, your leg won't lose that muscle over a week, because if you're taking it, the body is signaled to actually maintain, because through the stress of the surgery, to maintain the muscle. So a week later, they'll then, or a couple of weeks, a few weeks later, they'll take it off. They haven't lost muscle. They'll then do the first week of movement. They'll put on a kilo of lean muscle. On average, was that numbers I think he quoted to us. So HMB is this product that they've synthesized. It's inside one of these FutureLab products. It's the muscle protein complex. And I started taking that. Hey, I'm going to signal that I want to stay alive, that I want to surf, that when I get up off the couch, I don't get up slowly like a relaxed, calm man who's mature and he's pretty zen these days. I get up like I'm going to go for a surf. And so, because where my mind goes, my body will follow. So my body says, oh, we're not retiring. We're actually, we're getting ready. What are we getting ready for? It's like, oh, I'm going to go surfing. There's a big wave coming. So by sending the signal to myself the whole time, I'm actually, and doing the motion of that and taking the product that supports that as well, I've put muscle back on at 56 years of age with no TRT.
I mean, as I just believe, I know the science, but I also see it in real life, and I also just believe with every little tingle in my DNA that as humans, with the right natural resources, and we're just lucky Mother Nature gave us, particularly in Australia and affluent countries, if you want to call them, or developed countries, great food, access
great resources.
We can choose what air we breathe, and we can breathe. There are just so many things just in front of us, and it's just up to us to I just love food, and I love the fact we can move, and I love the fact
food is so good. Nutrition is so good when you see it as a fuel that you can enjoy, but you can get all these benefits from by knowing what to mix with what, and that's a whole other story. But one thing I want to add, Sam, really quickly for the men listening is I've learned this so many things. Listen to a couple of those podcasts as well, because they're really cool. So many cool things in there. But one with Paul. Oh goodness, sorry, Paul. I'll think of his name soon. An Irish ex-military, amazing man. He's so cool. I just love talking to him. But one, testosterone. We've got to stop doing the things that kill it. So human growth. So basically, don't have carbs before bed. Don't have carbs before bed. Have them earlier in the afternoon or whatever time around training. Have training carbs at the right time. With our cycles, have carbs at the right time and the right carbs, but don't have them before bed, because they go in and they block the HGH, the human growth hormone. They block that. So if you don't have carbs before bed, you'll wake up in the morning, you go, shit, did I lose weight? There'll be a little bit of definition where they're not normally, So don't have carbs, but don't have alcohol, don't have sugars, don't have things that actually produce a sleep that's a stimulated sleep. Eat a little bit earlier and eat a bit cleaner, because when you sleep, if you can sleep well, that is so important for an aging man. Like your testosterone, your nervous system, everything.
You make your testosterone, you sleep.
It's unbelievable the difference it actually makes. It's great to quote science. We don't know that. But the difference in my life when I go, and I get that good sleep, I wake up and I walk into the bathroom and go, oh, what's this? Whoa. And still a bloke, still a guy going, hey,
I like what I'm seeing.
Oh, whoa. I walk outside, honey, did you see this? And that'll be innocence of being a little boy that's grown into a man that just wants to be strong, and all those sort of things. And be that little boy, experiment with your foods and everything else. But the impact on sleep is such a superpower. But just for men, be very aware. Make sure while you're doing this, because when you start doing it, become very aware of the role alcohol plays in your testosterone production, and it's not a good role. And look at all the smartest, brightest men on the planet now. Andrew Huberman's done some amazing work around this. Sorry, men, but have a look at this is what the science tells us about alcohol and etc. Why are we doing it? Because we need a relief. Well, find other reliefs, but and do it in ways and just experiment with it. If you want to maintain muscle, there's a few really, really good hints for you. And play. Just go play like a kid again. Send that signal to the mind.
And it's just so good. Gym's not the only way to move the body, and
Yeah.
walking,
Oh yeah.
being in the ocean, just so many things.
Walking, I love walking. It's like the lymphatic system just gets drained every time we walk.
Yeah.
Just, besides the fact that you can walk with your partner or a mate and you can talk and move, or you can listen to a podcast and you're walking through nature, you're letting things go, you're out in the fresh air. It's so powerful.
Forest bathing. I've forgotten the actual Japanese.
Forest bathing, yes.
Yes, so powerful.
Yeah,
So I think we've surmised that stress isn't, recognizing stress, because a
yeah,
lot of people who listen to this will be going through stress, and if they can just sit back and go, how's my body feeling? Is it tense? If it is, what's the language that's going on inside my head? Can I share this with someone? Can I start offloading a little bit? Because that will help start the process of dropping down those stress hormones, which absolutely cortisol suppresses testosterone. And
yes,
once
yeah,
testosterone starts to rise naturally, you start to feel powerful from within without
yeah,
having to grab it from outside and get that
yeah.
significance, because you already feel balanced on the inside.
And you
And
start going again. You start like going, and you
yeah,
expand your horizons.
and happiness, and joy
Yeah,
start coming back. What if people want to get in touch, because I know you do so
yeah.
many retreats and different things, what are the best ways for people to tap into what you do and follow you? And you've mentioned the lab, the podcast.
FutureLab, yeah, FutureLab's great. Check that out. And yeah, trevorhendy.com. Post some things on there, and there's ways to get in contact with me to ask questions. Also, Hendy Trev on Instagram.
Hendy
Um,
Trev,
Hendy
yes.
Trev, yeah, and Trevor Hendy on YouTube. My wife and I got some real cool travels on there. But Hendy Trev, I post a lot of things, so that when we're going to put on another seminar somewhere or whatever for our breath and breakthrough retreats, I pop that on there. So yeah, that's the biggest ones. Yeah, I'm on the journey, still discovering so much, sharing a lot, working with some amazing people. So blessed to be surrounded with amazing men. By the way, for men listening and for women listening, there's so many amazing men out there that
Mm.
are really shifting, and they're not soy boy men. They're not like, oh, soft with a soy boy beard or whatever. Not that I'm sort of dissing any of that, but they're strong men, but they're starting to view themselves as just the sensitivity is powerful and important to them, and it's amazing to speak to men that can laugh at themselves and can share. It's really, really cool.
Such a good time to be alive, I reckon. With
Oh, it's incredible. It really
yeah,
actually is.
yeah,
And there's so many things happening to push us through, because we look down, we're going through a portal, we're going through a funnel
definitely.
into the new earth, so to speak. And we look down, you go, oh, don't stop. I'm not going back to that. Like it's,
Uh-uh.
don't go backwards.
No, once you get to take the real juice of life and
Mm,
connection,
mm.
it's irresistible. So, well, thank you so much for
Thank you, Sister
sharing.
Sandy.
I really, yeah, I've loved it, and no doubt we'll have wonderful feedback. And thank you always just for being you.
You too, mate. Look forward to our next adventure together.
It's great.